incorporate technology into your classroom?
I use technology in the classroom by asking students to bring calculators to class because I teach, of course, calculus. And we take various applications and programs from online and incorporate them and teach them how to do a little bit of programming within their calculator. And so they're actually able to write programs for things like the quadratic formula. Um, the most recent program that we have done it consists of Diophantine equations. Anyway, so we just basically take the program, incorporate it in, and then show them how to execute it. Another thing that I use for technology within the classroom is I use my smartboard all of the time and pull questions that would be applicable. For instance, if you're shooting a projectile and it's following a certain trajectory, then it's going to look like an upside down parabola, and so we can use something like that. Several of the students even have the capability of importing the pictures on their calculator and mapping the parabola and showing what the vertex would be and such like that. So,
What type of projects do you do with your students?
project based learning is my favorite because it's requiring the students to be very involved. One of the most recent projects that I use, I actually also teach an engineering class. And in that engineering class, they had to find a problem on campus and create an organizer that would solve the problem. And so part of their project, of course, they had to go through and do the research and look at not only local examples of that might have from local companies, but also examples. For instance, they compared their organizers to organizers from IKEA or other local companies anyway, and made a price comparison, and then they were required to actually build the materials. And projects such as that really opens their eyes to seeing something and thinking, hey, this is how it should work, as opposed to actually having to build it. And it kind of creates a more realistic approach for them whenever they're actually having to put hands and feet on their ideas.
And as far as on a daily basis with your general lesson plan, how much do you get your students involved with your lessons?
As far as student-oriented learning or student peer-to-peer questions and concept reviews between each other, I would say probably 40% of my classroom time is devoted to that for every class that I have. Unfortunately, that number is supposed to be a little higher, towards 65%. I just found out at an in-service that I went to last week. So I will be incorporating new methods to try to have more peer-to-peer conversation about whatever academic concept we are discussing.
What are some of the ways you incorporate the students with what you were just talking about?
Okay. The methods that we use in order for them to discuss, a lot of times when they are reviewing for a test, they will take the concepts that are going to be on the next day's test, and they will each pick a problem on a concept such as synthetic division. And then each student is responsible for choosing a problem and then teaching their partner how to work the problem. And then it flips, and the partner then has to take their question and teach the other student how to work the problem. And so they're both showing knowledge of, not only do I understand it and I can do it, but I can also explain it to someone else, and they can do the process as well.
Into your classroom.
The flipped classroom is a new concept that we've discussed at several of our in-services for the past year. And the flipped classroom is very unique because instead of having the teaching time inside of the classroom, of course, the teaching time is at home. It also gives parents access to the same material if they want to assist. And then in class, instead of them being left on their own, of course, to do homework and whatnot, it allows us to have a better time as far as communication between the student and the teacher within the classroom. As far as using the flipped classroom technique, I've only used it a couple of times with Khan Academy, and I've used it more along the lines of a review to where the students are actually they've already been introduced to the subject, but kind of as a follow-up, they watch the video on Khan Academy. That is their assignment at home, and then in the classroom we actually work the problems together. So I do like the results. I haven't been brave enough to introduce a concept, but that'll probably be the next stepping stone, is to introduce a concept at home and then see how much of that they grasp and quiz them on it in class.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thanks.